Hi guys, we're here on day one of a 3-day special tour with Jaguar Land Rover, and we're here today at the Solihull Welcome Centre, Customer Handover Centre and the plant. And we've been taking a look around, and we've been taken around in these cars here, and these are specially built Defenders. As you can see, they're extended wheelbase. They've been taken from an original design that was used in South Africa on safaris, and they actually have to bring the doors in from there. There's only 3 of these, and they're only driven internally. They're not registered. They're limited to only 20 miles per hour, about 35 kilometers per hour. And we've been going around this place looking at the facilities here. Now, what I can tell you is that here at the plant, they use a just-in-time process to manufacture cars, so parts come in as and when they need them. Now that means that there's about 1,000 lorries coming in and out of this place every day. And in fact, there's 180 to 200 transporters leaving here with completed cars, around 1,600 vehicles a day that are made here. Now, they actually run it pretty much around the clock, 24 hours a day. They run 3 8-hour shifts. There's over 10,000 people working here, and plus 700 robots, and that's just in one paint body shop facility. And each of those is about £100,000. So that's a lot of investment in this facility. Now, once the cars go from body and paint into that facility, it takes about 8 hours to actually build them, and another 2 hours to test them. And the test includes something like monsoon level testing on these cars. So it is pretty crazy. And the amount of material that goes into making the cars are all aluminium bodies, of course, and they use 150 meters of adhesive to go into the car, plus something like 2,500 rivets to build each car. Now, they say that the adhesive alone is strong enough that if you tried to rip it apart after the adhesive is set, you'd actually rip the aluminium panels. That's how strong it is. And so we got to look around that centre. We also got to look around at the special exhibition that they're running here on Range Rover, dating right back to the original cars, the original prototype, to the latest car, which is the Velar. And I'll come back to the Velar name in a minute. We got to see how the idea was to build a comfy off-roader, and that was the original concept of Range Rover. This dates right back to the late 60s. And in the late 60s, take for example a Land Rover Series 1, that cost you £710. A house around that time was just over £4,000. So we're talking quite affordable. It'd be great to find one for that money these days. And the UK at the time was one of the top 5 car manufacturers in the world. We got to look at some of the mood boards and design inspiration. It was a car very much of its time, so very, very 70s. But we also got to see a replica of an original clay model of the Range Rover, and we saw how the different design things were looked at, discarded or kept, and how they came through in the original thing. The Range Rover also, we saw that how it got multiple uses, so they would extend it, they would do 6-wheelbase versions, and there was a whole department that did that. It became Special Vehicle Operations, and Special Vehicle Operations is still functioning now, still doing all kinds of bespoke stuff for the cars, but at the same time, they're also doing a special program, which is Land Rover Reborn, and so far they've already made 25 Series 1 Land Rovers that they have basically made to factory spec. They've taken old cars and reborn them to original, and now they're doing it with Range Rovers, and we're hopefully going to get a closer look at those tomorrow. So now we're off to another place, and hopefully we'll add that in the next part of this series. So part 2 of today, we came to Castle Bromwich, where they've been making Jaguars. Now, actually this place has been here since 1938, and they were actually making Spitfire aircraft here. And around 1966 or so is when they started making Jaguars. And we walked along the F-Type production line. We looked at how they build a car. They build about 41 F-Types per day here, but they also build XEs and XFs, about 240 of those per day. We looked at the production line, we looked at the quality that went into the car and how they do quality control in terms of fit and finish, and then the final checking on the car and all of that sort of stuff. A lot of robots still employed, but a lot of hand-built work also going into the F-Type because of the lower volume of the car and the sort of niche factor of the car. And like the other place, 80% of their production actually goes overseas, and that's pretty much it. And most of that is China and USA, and of course in the Middle East we get it as well. There's about over 6,000 people work here, and that's pretty much it. What else can I tell you about that? They do tests at the end of the car, such as vibration and resonance testing, to make sure the cars have been finished properly. After that, we were very fortunate enough to get a presentation from one of the legendary designers, Ian Callum of Jaguar, and he talked us through these I-Paces, which is the car that I'm sitting in at the moment. I haven't driven this yet, and hopefully tomorrow, so in episode 2 or part 2 of this series, we'll be able to bring you that a little bit more, the driving experiences of this car. And he very much talked about how the Jaguar identity is there and it's intact. We won't get an XK, the F-Type will continue, saloons will be part of the Jaguar family, but SUVs are definitely the way to go. We then had a fantastic presentation by Andy Wheel. Yes, his name is Andy Wheel, exterior design for Land Rover. And we tried our hardest to try and get some information about the Defender out of him, but he wasn't budging. But we do know that the Defender is moving more into the gap that maybe the first generation Land Rover Discovery vacated, and then moved a little bit more upmarket towards Range Rover Discovery and the Discovery Sport. So it's been an absolutely fascinating day hanging out with the JLR crowd today and checking out how they make these things, how they design them, how they engineer them, and all of that sort of stuff. And tomorrow I think we're going to get a bit more hands-on experience, so that'll be part 2 of this series. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned.